Justice is perceived to be an objective truth, upheld as a pillar of social stability. However, justice relies on external moralities to shape definitions of what is right and wrong, often to the detriment of individuals who are marginalized under such ethical frameworks. This fundamental paradox is evident in Arthur Miller's The Crucible, and also in the film Blade Runner, directed by Ridley Scott. The Crucible is a dramatic text that explores the consequences of theocratic rule during the Salem witch hunts, in an allegorical critique of McCarthyism and the Red Scare, whereas Blade Runner is a science fiction film that criticizes aspects of capitalism, namely a corporatized justice system and the dystopian traits of oligarchy. Both texts challenge the preconceived notion of justice as an inherently positive feature. An authority prioritizes the will of institutions over the rights of the individual. Injustice becomes accepted and normalized. This stands in opposition to views that justice is the primary enforcer of good in society. This is embodied in The Crucible through Deputy Governor Danforth, the leading legal authority in Salem. His conservative outlook leads to the execution of innocent townsfolk, which Miller argues is an unavoidable function of Puritan governance. He writes in the introduction to the work, "All organization is and must be grounded on the idea of exclusion and prohibition," emphasizing the protective yet detrimental nature of institutional power. Danforth enforces unjust laws in the name of protecting the theocratic status quo. His bias is revealed when he proclaims that a person is either with this court or he must be counted against it. There be no road between. High modality language asserts Danforth's devotion to a demonstrably unjust theocracy, a veiled criticism by Miller of the communist witch hunts of 1950s America. By protecting established hierarchy, Danforth ultimately suppresses the town's voices of individual freedom, resulting in tragedy. Likewise, the tendency of institutional power to trample true justice is seen in Blade Runner through the character of Eldon Tyrell, CEO of the Tyrell Corporation. In contrast to The Crucible, justice in Blade Runner is heavily influenced by corporate money. The rampant commercialism of Blade Runner's hyper-capitalist dystopia is revealed through setting. Advertising pervades all aspects of an apocalyptic Los Angeles. Parallels between the authority of Tyrell and Danforth exist in the depictions of both as holy men, Danforth literally, and Tyrell through the religious mise-en-scène of his office. Tyrell is responsible for the creation of replicants, human-like androids who are manufactured exclusively to be exploited as labor in off-world colonies. Many replicants escape back to Earth in pursuit of freedom, and the empathy of the replicants is contrasted with the callous hierarchy of the world of Blade Runner, where corporate institutions exploit and objectify the replicants when they're useful, and hunt them down when they aren't. This materialistic subversion of justice is expressed when Tyrell says to Roy, an escaped replicant,
"Look at you. You're the prodigal son. You're quite a prize."
Tyrell is incapable of expressing empathy for the replicants, instead describing them in monetary terms, and likening himself to God through biblical allusion. Both texts critique the inherent validity of justice, and analyze the moral filters that distort and diminish the ability for justice to protect the individual. When individuals subvert established power structures, justice is used as a tool to repress and silence voices of dissent under the guise of maintaining social order. This contrasts with the tenet that justice should be equitable and protect the innocent. Within the context of The Crucible, the character of John Proctor serves as a martyr figure, suffering persecution for daring to criticize the detrimental role of religion in Salem governance. When John is judged guilty at trial, he proclaims, "You are pulling heaven down and raising up a whore." The dramatic irony of his conviction lies in Proctor's innocence and knowledge of Abigail's manipulation. Proctor attacks the moral subversion that provides the Salem justice system with the authority to condemn the innocent. However, Proctor is not without fault, as he carries the emotional burden of adultery with Abigail, the instigator of the Salem witch hunt. Nonetheless, Proctor morally transcends through his refusal to give false testimony and endanger further lives. Proctor's virtue imbues his execution with a sense of personal justice. Proctor's sacrifice reveals the perversion of justice executed by the court in the name of maintaining order, a move which ultimately turns the public against the theocratic institutions of Salem. Miller writes in the epilogue Echoes Down the Corridor that, to all intents and purposes, the power of theocracy was broken in Massachusetts. The sacrifice of Proctor can be likened to the character Roy Batty in Blade Runner. Roy is a replicant, an escaped slave who seeks to find his creator and asks for his shortened lifespan to be extended. Like Proctor, Roy's virtue is ambiguous. His band of escapees murder several people over the course of the film. However, when he captures the detective whose job it is to retire, that is, kill him, he responds with an emotional speech that reveals his sense of humanity and the injustice of hunting him down.
I've seen things you people wouldn't believe. Attack ships on fire off the shoulder of Orion. I watched C-beams glitter in the dark near the 10-house gate. All those moments will be lost in time. Like tears in rain. Time to die.
Roy spares his hunter and a dove flies from his hand, a symbol of innocence that reinforces the notion that justice, when imposed by unjust powers, merely serves to repress individual rights rather than protect them. The Crucible and Blade Runner each challenge audience notions of what justice is, and highlight the role that morality plays in the creation of justice systems. Furthermore, they demonstrate the dangers of subscribing fully to an ideology in a way that is universal and can just as easily happen today, or perhaps already is.